everyone. As editors of the Reflecting on the CFR and its companion volume book published by Multilingual Matters, we'd like to share with you how we came about publishing the book. The book owes its existence to EALTA, the European Association for Language Testing and Assessment. Since its foundation in 2004, EALTA has been closely linked to the CFR, which is the focus of one of its special interest groups. In January 2018, this special interest group organized a one-day conference in Dublin to share the responses of language education professionals to the first published version of the companion volume. This was followed in 2020 February by a second symposium sponsored jointly by EALTA and by the UK Association for Language Testing and Assessment, UKALTA, and hosted by the British Council in London. The purpose of this second event was to consider ways of developing a roadmap for future CFR research and development. The two-day meeting was a huge success, with more than 100 participants from different countries in Europe and also from the USA or from Japan, engaging in lively and very fruitful discussions. And given this enthusiastic reception, according to the symposium, we thought that a volume containing expanded versions of the presentations would be actually very useful for all those involved in language education.
Most people who've heard of the CFR know that it defines proficiency at 6 levels: A1 and A2, B1 and B2, C1 and C2. And there's a widespread assumption that it's just about language testing. But the CFR's can-do descriptors can be used simultaneously to specify curriculum goals, describe learning tasks, and provide a focus for assessment. In other words, the CFR's action-oriented approach provides a means of linking curriculum, teaching and learning, and assessment in a closely interdependent relationship. What's more, the CFR advocates a plurilingual approach to language education, the implications of which have yet to be digested by education systems. So when planning the conference, we focused on 4 themes. First, the background of the CFR, its history and impact, and the new dimensions and content added by the companion volume. Second, the action-oriented approach. Third, plurilingualism and the plurilingual approach. And fourth, the scales and descriptors. And to address each of the last 3 themes, we recruited 3 practitioners, 1 for curriculum, 1 for teaching and learning, and 1 for assessment. And the book, Reflecting on the CFR and its companion volume, has the same structure. And the 15 contributors to the book come from 10 countries. 3 of those contributors are with us now to speak briefly about their chapters. First, Elaine Boyd.
Hi, thank you. Yes, well, in my paper, I was looking at the issue of commonality versus localization in curricula. In other words, the tensions between the need for curricula which are specific to local contexts of learning, but also aim for some sort of alignment between different learning programs. I started by outlining the provenances of some typical curricula and the various challenges they present for any alignment. And I then went on to suggest some solutions, which were firstly guiding providers to focus on the purpose or intention of a curriculum rather than everything. Secondly, proposing that we develop standardized support frameworks for providers to use when they develop a curriculum so that we have a standard process for any alignment. And finally, that we might measure alignment at the highest level rather than in the detail. And now I'll hand over to Elif.
Thank you, Elaine. And in my chapter, I took an assessment perspective to mediation as a mode of communication, as presented in the companion volume. And I focused on the challenges awaiting all users, but mainly testers. For example, I talk about the difference between mediation and interaction, which is not very clear in the companion volume, at least to me. And I even make a humble attempt to clarify the distinction among the modes of communication by also highlighting the inevitable overlaps. Another very important issue I believe is related to the concept of emotional intelligence as a factor affecting learners' success in their mediation tasks. As you can imagine, this poses construct-related issues in terms of assessment. So I discussed the challenges surrounding mediation in my chapter from different perspectives. And I suggest that we encourage more research into mediation and how it's assessed so that we can better define the mediation as a construct. And now I'd like to hand over to Barry.
Yes, thank you, Elif. I'd like to bring just a little bit of focus on that final chapter that I was responsible for, where I took some of the ideas that we've heard just now and a lot of the other ideas from the book in general to integrate it, if you like, into a single argument, into a single position. And at the conference, I remember I quite controversially presented it in terms of 3 slides, with a triangle, a circle, and a square. And I think I confused some people, maybe including myself. But the idea is that the triangle represents the system, the curriculum, the assessment, and the teaching and learning. The square represents what are now 2 volumes. And in my chapter, I argue that we need to be thinking not in terms of 2 volumes, but in terms of 1 volume. And the circle represents the CEFR, which we can use, I believe, despite the issues pointed out by Elaine and by Elif just now. That can be used to drive the whole system, to ensure that we have this alignment. Without some sort of a clear framework in there, the system can't work. There can't be an alignment.
Okay, so that's the book. We hope that we've made you feel a bit interested in it and you're going to read it. Thank you very much.
Thank you.